In announcing that his administration would halt funding for the World Health Organization, President Donald Trump made a series of false, misleading, and unsubstantiated claims about the WHO. Regarding travel restrictions and lives saved, the president said,
"And if we didn't close our border early, very early, long before the kind of dates you're talking about, we would have had thousands and probably hundreds of thousands more deaths."
We found no support for Trump's claims. The research on the impact of travel restrictions shows they can delay the exportation of cases, if the restrictions are stringent, but they can't contain the spread of viruses. And on travel restrictions and the WHO reaction,
they told us when we put on our travel ban, a very strong travel ban, there was no need to do it, don't do it. They actually fought us.
There's no evidence WHO leaders have publicly criticized the U.S. for its January 31st decision to restrict travel to and from China, let alone that they actually fought the U.S. over it. The organization did, and continues to, recommend against countries enacting travel restrictions in reaction to the spread of the coronavirus. Trump also criticized the WHO for trusting China's transparency regarding COVID-19.
Had the WHO done its job to get medical experts into China to objectively assess the situation on the ground and to call out China's lack of transparency, the outbreak could have been contained at its source with very little death, and certainly very little death by comparison. This would have saved thousands of lives and avoided worldwide economic damage. Instead, the WHO willingly took China's assurances to face value, and they took it just at face value, and defended the actions of the Chinese government, even praising China for its so-called transparency.
Trump is not alone in criticizing the WHO for accepting information from Chinese officials. And it's true that the WHO Director General complimented China for its response to the outbreak in remarks on January 30th. What Trump didn't say is that early on he too said he trusted what China was telling the US about the virus. On January 24th, Trump tweeted, "China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency." The president praised China's efforts and transparency for weeks. Here he is on CNBC.
President Xi, there's just some talk in China that maybe the transparency isn't everything that it's going to be. Do you trust that we're going to know everything we need to know from China?
I do. I have a great relationship with President Xi.
On February 7th, he tweeted, "Great discipline is taking place in China, as President Xi strongly leads what will be a very successful operation. We are working closely with China to help." And in another interview on Fox,
some concerns that their economy is really going to tank because of this, and that could have a spillover effect here. What's your sense of their transparency right now, whether they're being more accommodating in terms of telling us what's going on and how it affects our economy?
Well, I think China is very, professionally run in the sense that they have everything under control. I really believe they are going to have it under control fairly soon. But China, I can tell you, is working very hard.
The president also criticized the WHO for failing to act on credible reports in December 2019 of person-to-person transmission.
The WHO failed to investigate credible reports from sources in Wuhan that conflicted directly with the Chinese government's official accounts. There was credible information to suspect human-to-human transmission in December 2019, which should have spurred the WHO to investigate immediately. Through the middle of January, it parroted and publicly endorsed the idea that there was not human-to-human transmission happening, despite reports and clear evidence to the contrary.
While there is a debate about what was known when, and it seems clear that China knew more than what it reported, the WHO wasn't notified of an outbreak in Wuhan until December 31st, and never said the virus was not communicable. Instead, the agency always considered the possibility of person-to-person transmission, even as it also shared information from China that found no evidence of such transmission. In a January 14th tweet from the WHO, preliminary investigations conducted by the Chinese authorities have found no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission of the novel coronavirus identified in Wuhan, China. Lack of evidence, especially of preliminary results, does not mean the WHO was saying the novel coronavirus could not be spread between people.